So getting started. You've lost your job, no fault of your own, or you're looking for a new job or a better job. It's kind of all the same at this point in the process, because you need to be creative on how you're going to find that next job, which is why Creative Job Search is a great name for this series of workshops, is because we have to be creative. Employers need to be creative, because they're still worrying about things going on with COVID and with those sorts of things, I'm guessing. It hasn't gone away, and so they need to be creative as well. We all know that this is difficult. Everything is changing on a daily basis. You apply for a job, you get an interview, you get another interview, and then you get the letter saying, we're sorry, we've gone in another direction, things like that. So you're going to be up and down. But I think the real key to this is to have a positive outlook throughout this whole process. That's going to really, really be the best thing for you, because that positive outlook is just going to show your best self every day. But you need to set up a game plan and on how to get that next job, and keeping that positive attitude throughout. Because if you go in with with a bad attitude, that employers are going to see that. People you network with are going to see that. So we all know that this is difficult, whether you've been out of work for a day, a week, or a month, it gets difficult, and even more so the longer it goes on. So to get into this and be prepared for what is ahead is good. But this is kind of it looks funny and it looks kind of silly, but this is truly how this oftentimes goes for folks. It's emotional roller coaster. Here we go, the news sinks in finally. You take a couple of days and just think, oh my gosh, I need to find a job. I lost my job. And then all these different emotions go through you. Maybe there's relief. Maybe you really didn't like that last job, and it's a relief that they let you go, so that now you can get into something different, something better, something that you really, really want to do. Maybe that last job was what we call a survival job, and now you can get into a real career. There can be some self-doubt. Can I really do this? I'm not sure I can do this. And then you get on the upswing. You got to mobilize your resources. You attend some of these workshops. You meet with a job counselor. Things are going great. But you may feel this up and down, and you know what? Everyone's going through this at the same time. We're all in different places, right, on the roller coaster. So if you want to write in the chat where you are on that, what maybe is a stressor for you, or something that makes you feel better, something that maybe you can do to help others, or say to help others who maybe are on that, leads don't pan out, or nothing much is going on. Taking actions. What kinds of things are you doing to help yourself? So if you want to throw a few things in the chat, that would be great to see that. Extra time to do something meaningful. Yeah, because you want to go into this feeling good about what you're doing. That's just going to make you feel so much better. And balancing your doing something meaningful and job searching and doing all the other things that we do. Enjoying time with your 3-year-old son, that's great. But this is perfectly normal. So don't you got to give yourself credit for your emotions. This is huge. This is a really big deal. And maybe now is the time to look at that new career, that new occupation that you're looking at doing. But they say that job loss is right up there with loss of a loved one and things like that. So it is a big deal, and give yourself credit for it. So when you finally, it sinks in and you're like, okay, I need to mobilize my resources. I need to figure this out. You need to recognize your feelings. Are you happy that you lost your job because now you can get into something different? Are you still a bit ticked off at that former employer for letting you go, for shutting down the business, for selling off a department, and now you don't have your work anymore? Recognize the feelings that you're going through, and find a safe outlet. Now that probably isn't with other people that are ticked off that have also lost their job. That's maybe not the best place to try and stay positive. But find a safe outlet, be it, talking to a job counselor, talking to friends that have a great attitude on things and a great outlook on things. When I was on unemployment, I would talk to my pastor just because we're friends, and I know that she can always be very uplifting, and she just says the right thing at the right time. So to find those places, those people, those groups, there's networking groups you can find on careerforcemn.com that might be a really safe place for you to talk about things. And then you know what? You just have to forgive. Forgive COVID, if that's the reason. Forgive, businesses closing down. It's not personal. It's a business decision to do those things, to keep the company afloat, or for them to get out of it because they're just not going to make it. But you need to forgive. And if writing it down in a journal and just be, say the most scathing, nasty things you want to say to that former employer or to COVID or to whatever it was, write it down. You scream it into a pillow. Of course, you would never send that journal page. You'd probably want to burn it or chew it up and spit it out or something like that. Never, never, never send it, of course, to anyone, but just to get it off your shoulders, just to release yourself of those feelings. And then accept the change. You know what? I got to do something different. I have to start over. I have to get out and see my network, but accept the change and accept the challenge to move on. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to be stalled in that sort of emotional roller coaster, if you will. And so then just accept it, because every day is going to be hard. And this is the one thing you can choose to do every day, is your feelings. How are you going to feel today? Am I going to feel strong? That's a great day to go out and do some networking. If you're not feeling so strong, maybe it's a good day to stay in the basement and get on the job boards and look for work. You're going to feel energized. You're going to feel positive. You're going to feel negative. Remember that positive attracts positive. So those are the kind of people you want to be around. You don't want to be around negative folks that are going to say, yeah, that employer was, and kind of diss on everything you're talking about. You just always want to be your best self when you're going to go out and talk to people. And maybe now is the time to just step back and regroup a little bit. Okay, what do I want to do? What can I do? What can I do to take the skills I've got from the job I had before and apply them to something new, something different? And just always be the best that you can be. Like I say, this is one thing you can choose to do every day. Sure, you can choose to get up and get dressed and showered and those sorts of things, but an attitude check is always great. If you are wearing your Krabby Pants on a certain day, that's a good day to stay home and do other chores and job search things. But remember, it's all about your attitude. And you hear this too with people in medical situations. The humor and attitude will get you through, and that's very true. So there's different ways, of course, to stay positive. Talking with others, like we talked about, other positive people, which is really great. And that can be your network. They can be, former coworkers that are positive, and you're all working together. Hey, I saw this job on the job board. It'd be perfect for you. That's that really sort of uplifting kinds of conversations that you want to have. Support groups and job clubs. Again, you can find a whole long list of these in your area or virtually on careerforcemn.com. Exercising is good for you to get out. I mean, today in Duluth anyway, it's awfully rainy, so maybe not today. But get outside, breathe in some good fresh air and smell the flowers. A lot of people do take this really hard and can't seem to get themselves out of that maybe more negative sort of phase. There's lots of resources in the professional counseling world, so take advantage of that as well. And talking to job counselors, finding out what's out there, what can I do next, kinds of things. And then I put positive talk and affirmations on here. And when I could customize this workshop myself, I would put a quote in here from someone that says, "You're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you." Does anybody know who that was? Put it in the chat if you remember that. And this will stick with you because you can use those positive affirmations all the time. I mean, there you go, Stuart Smalley. Yep, that was on the Saturday Night Live show. And he would look in the mirror and he would say that to himself. And I mean, wouldn't that feel good every day to say to yourself, you know what, this wasn't your fault. You're a good person. Good things are going to happen to you. I'm capable of meeting this new challenge. And just good things are going to happen to me. Tell yourself that every day. You know, you are good people. This wasn't your fault. Those sorts of things, just to stay positive. And volunteering also is very good because we all would love to help other people. We don't like to ask for help usually, but we love to help others. So if you can find a little short-term volunteering activity to do, yeah, Stuart Smalley, you know, go out and volunteer a little bit. Pack some, you know, lunch boxes for kids or backpacks for kids or you know, helping getting a garden, a community garden going. Things like that are really helpful. You can't volunteer away 40 or 50 hours a week because you still need to balance that with your job search and all those things, but it really does help. And you know what? You might be volunteering and deadheading roses standing next to the person at the HR department of a company you want to go work for. You know, bring it up. I'm looking for work. What have you got? How can you help me find a job? Can I meet with you next week? So be ready to talk about it everywhere you go, okay? So maybe put in the chat if you've got other ideas of how to stay positive. I would love to see them, and they might help others as well. Because we're kind of all in this together. So this networking, and if you go back in the chat, you can see if there's other people in your area that work in the industry you might be looking for. You know, reach out to. We can't share the chat with the follow-up, so you would need to make a connection within the next, let's see, 40 minutes if you want to connect with someone that's on the workshop today. I think when we looked before we started, there was going to be 75 people or so on the workshop. So that's a lot of contacts you can make. You know, some people say, you know, don't forget to breathe. That's a really great way to stay positive, is remember to breathe. Fun music, yeah, there you go. Eat better, there you go. So maybe put those positive affirmations in your refrigerator so that you go for the smoothie instead of the donut, things like that. Getting plenty of sleep is good. Meditating, which is great. Humor is always good. And then, of course, journaling. Write down your feelings. Get it off your shoulders. If you're having a bad day, write it down. And then go back to that a while ago and say, you know what, I felt kind of bad there, and this is what I did to get myself out of it. This is what I did to get over that hurdle, if you will. Yep, keep moving. Keep doing things. Hobbies creates a positive outlook, which is great. Yeah, we have to be grateful. There's a lot to be thankful for in this world, that it's in your own world, and be thankful for family and friends and the support that you get from others. Thank you all for that. I really appreciate that. And just remember, stay positive. Getting on the Facebook or the TikTok, you can see lots of stuff that isn't so positive out there. So just be mindful of what you're up to. So making a game plan. So these are some sites, and again, you'll get this in the PowerPoint when we're done. Some sites that you can go onto to assess yourself, see what else is out there for you in the job market, if you will. Obviously, careerforceadmin.com, and watch out because they're making all sorts of changes to it. They're adding new things and rearranging it a little bit, so keep your eye out for that, but they're adding some really good stuff for job seekers and employers, so keep an eye on that. But there are skills assessments, interest assessments, work readiness assessments, if you will, adding your career search path so that you can write all this down and stay on track, It's sort of you making yourself accountable for yourself. My Skills, My Future, these are all great websites to go on to and look up your previous employment and see what else might be a good fit for you. Figure out what are some other careers for you? What are some other areas you could dive into that maybe are, going on to the DEED website, have a bright outlook, if you will, because that's what you want to get back into, a career or a position where you will be in it for a long time. You don't want to come back and have to do these workshops all over again, but we want to get into a position that's good for us. And to figure out what is your homework. What do you need to do to get from point A to point B? If there's skills gaps in there, and if you qualify for the Dislocated Worker Program, talk to your Dislocated Worker Counselor about that. I talk to a lot of people every week, and we can come up with short-term training or even a certification that's going to help you get into that next opportunity. So filling in those skills gaps that you have is really great, and it's a great conversation to have with a job counselor. Even if you're staying in the same career, adding maybe one more computer program that you know how to use, or one more certification that you could add to your resume, or renewing a certification to make sure that it's current and active for you. Getting some advanced computer training as well. There's workshops on careerforcemn.com or out on the internet to brush up on the latest Microsoft suite of products. So keep that in mind. So staying current is great. Not everyone should start a new career, but if you can enhance what you have done so that you can show the employer what you did while you weren't working, actually is really impressive as well. So be sure that you keep an eye on that. Now, I believe this screen has changed a bit on careerforcemn.com, but this is, in this section is where you will find those interest assessments and skills assessments, comparing your skills sorts of links and programs. And it's going to show you the jobs in demand right now, which is really great to see that, so that that can help kind of guide you in your process of what would be a good position for me to get into. Like I say, you want something with a bright outlook. You want something that's on the on the rise in your area, and so this is a great place to find that information. And just assessing yourself so that you can get into the job that's the right fit for you. Are you I'm looking at one of these assessments right now, and it's got are you realistic? Are you investigative? Are you artistic? Are you social, enterprising, or conventional? To try and find positions in those areas so that you're not fighting with your internal desires and skills, so to look those up, I think is really fascinating, so that you can get into one. So you're going to want to go to work because you're going to love it. It's going to be a good match, okay? So some of these sites you can see, My Skills, My Future, you might plug in your current job, your past job, and find jobs that sort of match that based on the typical skills that you do in that position. I just did travel agent before I came on here, and it said insurance agent, customer service rep, salesperson, things like that, because that's kind of what we did in the travel biz. And so to look up those things, I think is really interesting to do that. Get a good idea of what might be a good fit. And so this is that state of Minnesota DEED site. It's called JobStat, which is Job Skills Transfer Assessment. So if you are going to go from something that looks like I opened up the business and financial operations occupations, so you can look at that. What is a typical day of an accountant? What would I do? I don't have my CPA, but if they do this, that, and that, and I know how to do that, you've got a lot of the skills that they might be looking for in that job. So it's a great tool to look at to also figure out what do they do in that position, in that job. So that's a bunch of stuff to help you get started, sort of assessing yourself, trying to figure out what should I do, where should I go from here. So we're going to get into how do we get started on this. And getting organized is huge. I love paper, so on my desk I've got paper everywhere. So when I was looking for work, I had to really reel it in and try and get organized with all my paperwork. Managing your schedule, you have to look for work, you have to still be a mom and a grandma and a sister and a daughter and all those things. You need to balance all that activity with your job search, with writing your resume, with all those things. And I'm going to talk about SMART goals in just a minute on the next slide. So setting up goals for yourself is always good as well. It kind of keeps you accountable. And if you can share that with someone too and say, hey, make sure that I stay on track with these things is a good idea as well. But keeping good records, because you want to, use a system that works for you so that you're not scrambling. When that company calls you to set up an interview and you don't have your calendar handy or ready, or you fumble around trying to find it, you want to be sure that you've got things where you can easily get your hands on them. Recording all those contacts that you've made, even, if it's someone out while you're out volunteering or someone while you're out at the grocery store, and they would be a good contact for you. Make sure you keep a record of all of that. Having that detailed record of your work history at the ready is great, so that you can just even copy and paste that into an updated resume or into an application. And then for all of these sites that you go on, unless you do everything through LinkedIn, which I am getting a little bit of heads up from folks that LinkedIn is great, but employers really appreciate it when you go directly to their site to apply for positions. It shows a little bit more interest, and they get it right from you rather than through Indeed. But you need usernames and passwords for all those different accounts that you get into. And so you want to be sure that you have, keep all that stuff handy so you have that. And also part of keeping good records, now whether you want to do that on paper, on your computer, on recipe cards, keep a record of who you talked to. What did they say? What was the conversation? What's the next step? All that sort of stuff, so that you have that really handy. And if you tell an employer or an HR person, I'm going to call you next Tuesday, you want to write that down and mark it on your calendar so that you do, in fact, call them next Tuesday. Keep a phone charger handy. Keep your records however you have them handy so that your phone doesn't die in the middle of a conversation with an employer. So that's, just getting organized. Keeping everything really handy, keeping copies of the resumes you send out for the particular job that you applied for, all those things, making sure you have a good voicemail on your phone, a good professional voicemail. Even if all you do is say your name, it just ensures the person on the other end of the line that they have the right phone number when they leave that message, and those sorts of things. So just some ideas on how to get organized and stay organized. So SMART goals they're smart. And so here's an example. I want to write a resume. I want to get a resume out to employers. So that's my specific task that I want to do. I want to write a resume. That's what I need to do. It needs to be measurable. So how will you know that you're on track? You can set a goal for yourself. This is part of it. And you can say, I'm going to have that resume to my career counselor in 10 days. So now you know you have 10 days to do that thing. Probably don't wait till day 9, throw it together and send it off to them. Take some time with this. It's a really difficult document to write because you would need to be concise. You need to have have all the good information that that employer needs to know about you so that they can, parse that out easily. If you want to get it done in 10 days, at least a draft to your counselor in 10 days. What resources do I need? So this is achievable. You can do this. You can get a resume done in 10 days, but you might need some support. You might need some help from a Career Force resume workshop, which is coming up next week. You need to do your skills assessment so that you know what jobs you should be looking for. You need your job history, because that's what a resume is all about, is what did you do? And your job descriptions, what did you do at those jobs? Not only where you worked, but the most important thing for that particular resume, what are the things that next employer needs to know, okay? So this is doable in 10 days. And it's got to be relevant to you. Why is this important? Well, because employers really like to see resumes, and they oftentimes need to be uploaded into an online application or email to someone. So you need, this is a relevant thing that you need to do. It's important, and it's timely. You need to get this back from your job counselor and review it so that it's ready to go. But give yourself a specific date. So if you're going to get it to your job counselor in 10 days, in 13 days you want it to be ready to go, okay, or something like that. So your goals, and you can have goals for writing a resume, for following up with an employer, for figuring out what's your next best career that you want to get into. You can have multiple goals going at one time, but if you just say, I need to write a resume, and that's the end of it, you're not really accountable to yourself. You can't really keep yourself on track very easily. So just to keep this in mind, and you will have a SMART goals worksheet that will go along with the workshop today that you can fill out. So, but just keep those in mind, that those are things that you want to do. And now remember, you haven't even applied for a job yet. So research is huge in your job searching. Maybe I should take a break. Nyquila, are there any questions or anything coming up in the chat that we should talk about?
There has not been any questions yet. No.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So researching is very important. Study the company's products and the services that they do. Their company size, their history, their locations. So I moved from the metro. I lived in Minnetonka, Edina kind of area, and my last job down there, my last job was in St. Paul, which is a long drive. If my kids were little, that would have been, a long ways away from them. So figure out what is important to you. Having, being close to home, not being stuck in traffic for 40 minutes each direction. Those sorts of things are important. The company size, do I want to work for a huge company, or do I want to work for a mom and pop shop where I can maybe make a little bit more difference or more impact with that company? And their history, if they have been on the front page of the newspaper because paychecks are bouncing, maybe that's not the right company to go work for, unless that situation has changed, obviously. So you want to know their financial situation. Are they in growth mode, or are they in, like I said, in the travel industry back when, and at the beginning of COVID, nobody traveled. So that industry kind of tanked out for a while. What is their mission statement or their philosophy? When I worked in the Twin Cities, I'm not going to mention the company's name, but I was an absolute peon in the Human Resources Division, and I was in the office on a Saturday putting together new hire packets for Monday morning with my baby in a stroller, because the philosophy of that company was you work all week to stay on par with the competition, you work all weekend to get ahead. And that trickled down to me. That trickled down to me even as a peon in the Human Resources Department. You don't want that. You want to be able to balance your life. You need your weekends to yourself, or your days off to yourself. You don't need to feel the pressure of, I have to work all weekend to get ahead. And what are some of those human resources policies? Do they have a policy where you can work 4 10-hour days in the summer and have Fridays off? I would love that. You know, and think about those things. You know, what are the benefits, the salary? We don't do this. It's not a hobby. You know, so you want to make sure that you are going to, it's going to work for you, benefits and salary wise. And then again, that labor market information. Are they on the rise, bright outlook, those sorts of things. So keep all of that in mind. You can find out about their financial information, maybe reading, you know, going into the newspaper, looking them up on the internet, you know, going onto LinkedIn maybe and find people that work there, those sorts of things. You can also get some information from the library through the Reference USA as to how big they are. I don't know how often that's updated, but the Reference USA is something that you can reach, I believe, through your local library. And human resource policies, that may be something that you would want to connect with people in LinkedIn or Facebook or friends or whomever that work there already to find those sorts of things out. Nyquila, was there something else?
There was a question in the chat that I believe you just addressed as far as the human resources policies. And then also,
Okay.
how do you find financial information for a company?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered that. You can look at, you know, their press releases or, like I said, the newspaper to find out a lot of that stuff. And that's part of your research, too, is to go to their press releases and find out. But the more you know about the company that you're going to go apply for a job with, and if you get an interview, the better off you're going to feel about that. The better off you're going to nail that interview if you know what they're all about, especially if you know about their growth. That they, you know, in Duluth here, there was just a merger between two hospitals. Now they cover this huge area and maybe offer expanded services. That's really exciting to you. If you know about that stuff before your interview, you're just going to wow them with the information that you know about them. So it builds confidence in you. It helps you write your resume because you know what you need to tell them about yourself. And it just gives you that better impression in your interview if you're kind of on top of what's going on. So you can research the company websites to find out what is the product that they make. Do I believe in what they make? Is it something that I can stand behind and be proud of when I tell people where I work? Those sorts of things, you can find that from their websites. The press releases give you a lot of great information about what's coming down the pike. What have they just recently done? Are they creating and releasing a new product? Those sorts of things. Yeah, your library has reference sections, and the librarians are very helpful. They love to help people sort of research things and figure things out. Like I said, LinkedIn is great. Some of those career information websites, you can find out more about their jobs that they have and what maybe to expect in that industry. Another way that you can maybe find out about some of those, excuse me, the internal things is through what we call an informational interview or conversation. Or maybe you call up a company and you say, can I just have 15 minutes of your time? And you don't make it all about, I need a job. It's more about, what do you do here? What is your company? What is it like here? What's the culture like in your organization? You're just looking for information. Now, whether that's with a coworker that works or a friend that works there, or the human resources person, or a department manager, whoever you can reach to find out what is it like. What is it like there? You know, and your network is growing. It grew even today with these other people in the chat. Your network may be a great way to find those sorts of things out. And you know what? We at Career Force locations, statewide, we talk to people all the time, and we sometimes have good information for you on certain companies. We may even have really good relationships with them and can help you connect to the right people. So research is very important. I think that there was a question in the chat. Is there a webinar for this group? How do you find information about the senior job search? you can talk to, you know, do that Job Search Over 50 workshop. They may have some insight for you. And then, you know, kind of go from there and see what they have to offer up for content. So you've done your research. Now you finally are getting ready and getting your tools in place. What else can you use to help you in your job search? Excuse me, getting a little thirsty, parched here. So creating a networking card is nice because when we go to the grocery store, at least for most of us, we don't carry our nice, you know, copy of our resume with us. But this is something that you can create. You can have them printed up at Vistaprint or your local print shop, or you can buy like template paper at Office Max or wherever you buy your, you know, you can get office materials that are pre-perforated so that you can come into a Career First location and print off business cards if you'd like, just to have something to hand to employers, like I say, at the grocery store. Oh, hey, hi, I know you work in Human Resources over at St. Mary's Hospital. Here's my card. If something comes up, I'm a, you know, whatever your position is, I'd love to sit down and talk to you. And oftentimes that kind of gets a business card coming your direction too, and they may say, call me next week and we'll set up a time to talk. So that kind of opens up that door for you. It's easy to work with these, you know, your name, you don't have to put on your address, but it might be nice to have your city anyway, where you live, so you can show that, you know, I do live in Minneapolis area. You know, with phone numbers so portable, you can have a Colorado phone number, but you live in Minneapolis. So just to sort of confirm that you live in the area, your phone number, your email, your LinkedIn address or online portfolio, those sorts of things. Make sure that you proofread it really well before you have 100 copies printed up, that the phone number is correct and the email is correct for that. Naquila?
Yes, we do have a question that just came up here in the chat. That is, I am a 52-year-old with limited job history, recently fired from employment and not sure if I'm eligible for unemployment. How do I find out?
I would suggest you apply anyway. It's not up to any of us to determine whether you are eligible or not. You can go online and apply, or you can give them a phone call and apply. That's the best way to get the information, is right from the folks at unemployment. And I think we can put into the chat their address and their web address anyway. You can go in there and get their phone numbers if you prefer to call. And then it looks like someone confirmed that, yes, the 50 and over workshops are great. We are always looking to add new workshops to our series, but that really is a great one. And that's, I don't know when that one's coming up. I don't have the calendar right in front of me, but yeah, we do encourage you to check out all of those as well. Naquila, was there another question? Oh, okay. So this is what a sample networking card could look like. It's very simple. Name, the kind of, you can, if you want to be sure that you only get productions or production-related employers. You can put in the type of jobs you're looking for. Again, your LinkedIn address, your phone number, your email address. And again, make sure that your voicemail is professional, so that when employers call to chat with you, they're not turned off by raunchy music or the one where kids are screaming and doorbells are ringing. You want it very professional, at least while you're job searching. And even with your email address. I mean, I could have one that would be inappropriate to use, you know, maybe prettygrandma@yahoo.com. Make it very professional, like this one, first name, last name @hotmail.com or what have you. And again, even if it's just for your job search stuff, you know, some people are getting, you know, email addresses are free, right? You can get a free Google Gmail account just for your job search. Then when you get all that spam and that other stuff that comes in from some of those job boards, not Minnesota Works, we don't do that. But if you're getting a bunch of junk coming into your email account, just set up a new one that just is for job search, and then you keep it separate from your personal stuff coming in. But again, make sure that it's very professional. And on the back, if you want to write on the back some of the things that you are really proud of yourself and that are really great transferable skills, you can write that stuff on the back too, which is good. Portfolios, I think you'll talk about this in one of the next workshops that you will be, that you could sign up for. But it's just a binder of examples of information, not your originals, copies, if it's something that you want to leave with them, of course. But if you're a writer and you bring writing samples, if you're a welder and you want to bring, you know, pictures of beautiful things you've made, or the nice perfect welds that you make, or, you know, things like that that you want to be sure that the employer knows about and sees in person for you. So, you know, if that's applicable, you know, obviously do those sorts of things. Looking for references now. So you are finally applying for a job. You don't share your references right up front. You want to be sure that you wait until that employer asks for them, because you want to choose your references very carefully. People that can speak to your work ethic, your work style, your, you know, all of those sorts of things, and say it really well and represent you very well, okay? So those are the folks that you want to use as references. So you may use different references for different jobs that you apply for, which is just fine. Have a backup list of references. But especially people that can speak to, so you said your references, the job description, the job you're applying for, and if there's something in that job posting that you want to be sure employers know about, maybe it was a computer conversion or things like that, use a reference that worked with you during that computer conversion, if that is going to be important to them. So I hope that makes sense to you. Avoid references that may be controversial. So my example of this would be, don't use your buddy in the National Rifle Association. Okay, pretty controversial topic. There's two really strong feelings on that. But if you're applying for a job at Gander Outdoor or at your local outlet, or I don't know, I can't even think of it. I don't even know if Gander Outdoor exists any longer. But where you're going to go apply for a job in their gun department, that's a perfect time to use your friends in the National Rifle Association, because they can speak about your safety, your gun handling, your expertise when you work with people, you know, coming to the shooting range or what have you. If it applies to the job you're applying for, you know, then it's more okay. But if you're not at all applying for a position like that, find other folks to use, because you don't know the feelings of that person on the other side of that, of the interview, of the hiring people. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. You can use peers, you can use former supervisors. If you're recently in school, use those instructors, clients that you worked with, if there's not a HIPAA violation sort of thing, vendors from where you used to work. So if you're going for a job in logistics and you want to talk about the people that delivered all the new equipment, or, you know, what have you, use your vendors that you worked with. Always ask permission and find out for sure where they're going to be and what's the best way to reach them. If you know that they go spend their summers out in Colorado and they don't have cell phone access and they use their landline, be sure that you ask them first, hey, I'm going to use you as a reference. Where are you going to be for the next few weeks? Hopefully it would only take a few weeks before they got called. So make sure that what is the best way to reach them in the near future. And then always thank them for their time, especially if it helps you get that job. You may never know if their reference did or not, but always thank them. Apparently, people have other things to do than help us find jobs. So be sure that you're conscientious and aware of that. So here's your homework, if you will, kind of our at last screen. So just think about how you're recovering from your job loss. Be sure that you can go networking and go interviewing with that great positive outlook that you have every day, and that, you know, facing the challenges every day. Be sure that you do that with a positive attitude. Get out there and talk to people. Like I say, if you've got your crabby pants on that day, it's a better day to stay home and just do job search and get ideas for what you can do the next day. Developing your game plan, making sure you're organized, setting up those SMART goals for different areas of your life. They can be personal, they can be job search related, but it kind of helps you stay on track, which I think is really important. I can't say enough about researching companies that you want to apply for, jobs that you want to get into, different industries, you know, all those sorts of things. And then just gathering up your tools that you need, your networking cards, those portfolios if it's applicable, your references, making sure that at your little station at home you've got everything that you need at your fingertips, so that when that employer calls and wants to set up an interview, you know which job you're applying for, or which job, who's calling you for which job. So make sure that you keep copies somewhere of the jobs you've applied for, so that before you get into the interview, because I hear from people all the time that it's kind of taking a while to get interviews. It's taking a while to get a call back. So make sure that you keep copies of the jobs that you're applying for, so that you can refresh yourself, especially before an interview. You can refresh yourself on what's that particular job, how you can help them, how you can show them that you are the best person for that job. So getting organized, staying organized is pretty critical. So that's the last screen I have. I want to just encourage you again to use the CareerForce locations, attend the workshops. They're really great. And this one is open to statewide. Look for workshops in your area, or even not in your area, but it's online. You can attend them from anywhere. And they're all listed on careerforcemn.com under the events. There's great research back there. When we used to do this in person, we used to have a 100-some page book that we would give you, but it's kind of hard to send those out to everyone. We will be sending out the material afterwards, so keep an eye out for that. And Nyquilla, were there any last-minute questions? I see you answered a couple, so thank you.
Yeah, there was just that one about the 50+ job search, in which I did add the link to that as well.
Sounds great. Well, again, I thank you all for attending. I wish you all the best of luck in your job search. And again, stay connected with us. We really appreciate it, and we are a really great resource for all of you, no matter where you are in your job search. Have a great day.